Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for telling our mutual friends the real reason I adopted a cat? I, 28 male, recently agreed to foster a cat who I was told had massive behavior issues and was going to be taken to an animal shelter. If I didn't agree, I expected spitting, hissing, biting, not litter barks trained etc. Cat arrived with nothing to her name. Cat is 5 years old. No box, bowls, toys, food. Nothing but a flea collar that was clearly months old and too tight. Cat was absolutely filthy. Ex-owner told me they couldn't provide money at the time for me to set the cat up, and I allowed it as I'd been told they were in a nasty financial position. We agreed to keep a tab of vet bills for bills to be paid as they are leaving. She mentions the case of white claws she stopped to pick up on the way. I was gobsmacked. I set about getting what the cat needed and began to try to gauge its behavior. Turns out this animal is the sweetest, smartest, kindest being I've ever had the pleasure to know. Took cat to vet, and cat is incredibly ill and underweight due to neglect. Got her medical shampoo for her skin, antibiotics for the massive infection she has, and then called her ex-owner and told her to send me her microchip details as I would be keeping the cat. She says that's fine. Cat was never chipped anyway. Doesn't pay anything bar $40 of the bills. 2 days later turns up at her job with hair and nails done. I sat on it for 6 weeks and stewed until I found out she had been speaking to someone about a kitten. I didn't embellish anything. I simply told 2 of my closest friends what happened and why the cat stayed with me. The truth spread like wildfire, and most people have now turned their back on her. My only intent was to stop her from getting another animal, not for it to end up like this. I feel like I could be the asshole because this has affected her work and friendships. So, am I the antagonist? Edit. I just wanted to add that I've changed a few details like a gender location to give anonymity as I don't want certain people reading this and getting shy. Now for the top comments. NTA. This sounds like a person who should not be trusted with anything other than perhaps a cactus. Not your fault that people spread gossip. I think I speak for all cacti when I say, no, not even cacti. NTA. TBH. I would take it a step further and contact the local shelters so they can hopefully put her on a do not adopt list. It's not being malicious. It's to protect other innocent animals from her abuse and neglect. I actually have done this. Called and emailed every single place I could find in a 300-mile radius. You can shout that from the rooftops and be good. She's an abuser. Please seek out do not adopt lists in your area and add her name. I work in cat rescue and people like that need baseball bat counseling. Thank you for being a hero for the pity. Purse to you, not the a-hole. Am I the antagonist for ruining a happy family moment by correcting a lie? So here's the deal. I'm 16 male, got step siblings 18F, 17F and 15 meters. My dad married their mom when I was 8, about a month before they got married, which is when they became engaged. They sat the 4 of us down and asked for us to give our blessing on the marriage. My step siblings all did and were eager for it to happen. I was not. All 4 of us lost our other parent before that point. Their dad died about 3-4 years before that point and my mom had died 2 years before. At this time dad asked me why and I said it was all too fast for me and I wasn't ready for a new family to come in and take over what used to be us and mom. They told me my reason wasn't good enough and they were ready and I would thank them one day. They have forever talked about how special our family is because we chose to be a family. We got to pick our family, etc. I have told my dad and his wife both how much it bothers me when they say it like that because I hadn't chosen this. They told me I would come to understand with time. It's been 8 years. I don't feel different than I did 8 years ago. I didn't choose them and honestly, I likely wouldn't choose them if I had a choice. They all like to ignore the fact I said what I did and instead say all 4 of us kids agreed and were excited for the wedding. Even my step siblings will say I chose them and they chose me. Only half of that is true. My dad and his wife celebrated 8 years married with some family. Everyone else was having a good time, but I was annoyed hearing all about how we were family by choice and how we chose each other. So I spoke up. I said everyone else chose, but that I had said no when asked, and I was told my reasons weren't good enough, so they'd choose for me. I said I understand I didn't get to dictate my dad's life, and that's fine. But the least they could do is not lie and say I chose this marriage and family. The mood soured. My grandparents could not believe dad had dismissed me way back then, and then talked about how happy I was about it. My dad, his wife and my step-siblings said I spoiled a happy family moment with my outburst, and that makes me childish and mean. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA. For an emotionally difficult problem, you have a pretty accurate view of it. I think if they'd shut up about the choice thing, you'd have let them have their happy marriage. But going on and on about it suggests they are overcompensating, and it's not fair to drag you into it and lie about your feelings. That's hurtful and selfish. They are constructing a narrative that makes them look better without regard for how it makes you feel. Telling the truth was the right thing to do. It made them uncomfortable, but they deserved it. Maybe now they'll think twice about dragging you into the happy chosen family story. Edit to at, I think if they'd left room for your feelings instead of dismissing them and trying to pretend them out of existence, you'd be happier for them. As it stands, the message they're sending is our marriage is more important than you. And that's obviously not okay. And of course you would have a hard time being content with it. They really are being assholes about the whole thing. That's pretty much it. Enjoy your marriage, but don't tell lies to make it all look and sound better. Just don't bring it up. It's as easy as that. NTA. If they didn't want to be caught in a lie, they shouldn't have lied. I feel for you. Family isn't easy. Am I the antagonist for scaring a young kid to spite his mom? I, 32 male, am pretty overweight. 320 lbs. Important later. I received a text from my mom while walking home from some errands that my cousin had passed away unexpectedly. This was the second unexpected death in my family in 2 weeks, and I was just broken. Ended up stopping at a burger joint on my way home because I knew I wasn't going to be making myself dinner in the mood I was in. While waiting in line, there was a young boy that was acting up, running around, grabbing straws and napkins, trying to push the buttons on the fountain. He was pretty young, but old enough that he should know better. His mom snapped and hissed at him, "If you don't start behaving, that big fat man is going to grab you and take you away," while pointing at me. Her words stabbed pretty hard. I've been fighting my ass off to lose weight that I've had since I was a kid, and have had moderate, slow success. I was just in the worst state of mind to be dealing with fat shaming, but bit my tongue. Kid behaved for a few minutes, but soon was running up and down the aisles again, and I was at my boiling point. When he ran past my booth, I lunged towards him, arms wide and fingers waggling, and shrieked like a banshee, "Boo-a-loo-loo-loo." This kid went into full survival mode, screaming, crying and tripping over himself trying to get back to his mom, who stormed over and started berating me. I said something about having to do her parenting for her. She slung more insults about my body. I went home afterwards. I felt pretty bad, not for the stuff I said to the mom, but for the sheer terror I gave the kid. Now for the top comments. NTA. SHHH. Don't tell anyone. Once a brat in a store asked why I'm so fat. I looked at him, smiled sweetly, and said, "Because I eat rude children." Mother of rude child didn't appreciate it. But then I said, "With ketchup," while waving the bottle around. At this point they left instead of trying to argue with me. A friend of mine gained weight during chemo treatments. Her children didn't care at all. One day a kid asked my friend in front of her kids why she was fat. Her eldest flipped back with, "Why is your eyes looking different directions?" In all my years on this earth, there is nothing like a kid going scorched earth on another kid. Opnet the a-hole. NTA. She's the one who cast you in the role of potential kidnapper/monster. I think it was actually very good natured of you to play along. So sorry to hear about your family, BTW. Am I the antagonist for refusing to go home When my husband told me to, I'm using a throwaway just in case. My husband Tom, 33 male, and I, 27F, have been married for 2 years. He has a habit of getting me to leave an event early as soon as he gets bored or sees someone he doesn't like come to the event, like my brother. He doesn't outright say it, but pretends to get sick, feel headache or stomachache, and force me to go home with him. Soon as we leave he'd immediately go back to normal and suddenly all the pain and headache go away. He then admitted it's a strategy to get out of boring and decent events. Thing is, this has been happening way too often, and I keep falling for it. More importantly, it has impacted my relationship with family and friends. I told him many times that he could go home by himself if he doesn't feel comfortable at an event and not trick me into going home with him. He told me that I had to leave with him, otherwise people would ask how he could drive while sick. I told him it's not my problem and next time he does this, I won't just play along. He smirked at me and we stopped bringing it up. 2 days ago was my sister's 18th birthday. It was obviously a huge event since she's the youngest in the family. Tom first said he wouldn't go, then asked me to not go as well because he was feeling sick from what, didn't specify. I said no and gave him the option to stay home, but he got dressed last minute and went with me. We got there. I went to stay with my parents and saw my sister. About 15 minutes later, Tom came up to me saying he was feeling nauseous and told me to go home with him because he was feeling sick. I figured he just got bored and was pretending to be sick to get me to go home with him just cause he didn't like the party. I told him no and that he needed to stop these games cause this was my sister's birthday. He swore he was sick, but I refused to go. He then gave me a nasty stare. Then at dinner we all sat down to eat, but he didn't. He kept staring, then started moving in his chair, and few minutes later he dropped down and started throwing up near the chair. Everyone got up from their seats and Dad went to help him up immediately. I couldn't believe it. I just stood there as Mom and Dad helped him up while he shouted she knew I was sick. I told her I was sick and needed to go home, but she just wouldn't believe me. Everyone heard this and stared at me. I felt guilt, shame, embarrassment, especially with how my dad looked at me to confirm this statement. It was horrible. Dinner was cut short and I had to drive him home. I got berated by both my family and him, and they called me neglectful and with no empathy to refuse to listen when he told me he was sick. He's been upset with me about what happened and refused to even talk, except to say it was my fault the party was ruined for everyone. I can't even talk about what my sister thinks of this, since this was her party. Was I really the R in this situation? Now for the top comments. NTA. I'm really sorry you're married to this guy. I'm concerned your family is siding with him, and that instead of Tom being graceful post-puke, he took advantage of the moment to humiliate you in front of family, which would manipulate you into believing him every time he is sick. I would explain the scenario to your family and consider divorce. Think about it and don't invite him anywhere again. This sounds very intentional. It's very rare that nausea sneaks up on you. He should have had the opportunity to go to the bathroom, but he instead made a whole perfectly timed event to embarrass and punish you for setting boundaries. This guy is toxic. It's 100% textbook narcissistic behavior. Isolating Op from family members. Creating grandiose situations to prove himself right. Smirking after Op said they wouldn't placate him. This is just very concerning. Op. PLS read up on narcissists and the impact they have on you. NTA. He kept crying wolf, admitted to it, and got mad when you refused to believe him. It's his own damn fault. Also, he's an adult. Did he not have access to a bathroom? Couldn't he isolate himself until he got a bit better? I'm also very weirded out by the fact that he just threw up and his immediate reaction was it's her fault. NTA. Normal people who are legitimately sick would do anything they could to get to the bathroom if they needed to throw up. Nobody want to be seen throwing up by others. Then he shouted at you saying he told you, do not have children with him. Consider counseling. His behavior is not normal. Good luck. Am I the antagonist for causing my mom's and stepdad's divorce over a swimming accident? I, 14F, have a stepsister, 9F, that likes to copy everything I do. We have a swimming pool, and in the swimming pool I have a thing I like to do. It is kicking off the wall and swimming to another wall. Back and forth over and over again. My sister likes to copy that, but she sometimes gets too close, and I don't want to accidentally hurt her. Once I notice that she's getting too close and not fixing it, I'll ask her nicely to stop getting so close, and if she can't do that then to just stop. She usually fixes it, but this time she didn't, and I just ignored it and kept swimming. Well, I asked her again to please stop getting so close, and when she didn't listen, I accidentally kicked her in the side. Keep in mind I'm 14 years old, so I'm not exactly strong. I kicked her underwater. So if you have ever swam in a pool, you know you can't kick hard in the water. I also did it on accident. I was just swimming. Well, my stepdad was on the porch, and when my stepsister came up for air she was fake crying and screaming that I just kicked her in the face really hard. When my stepdad heard her crying and screaming, that he asked me what happened, and I explained the whole story about how I asked her to stop 2 times, and then I accidentally kicked her in the side. My stepsister then started saying that I was lying, and I kicked her in the face hard on purpose. Let's just say my stepdad definitely worships his daughter and favors her over me. Now do I blame him? No. Because I'm not his biological daughter, but he makes it extremely obvious that he loves her way more than he does me. So when he heard from his daughter that I kicked her hard in the face on purpose, he proceeded to call me a bunch of names along the lines of a brat, terrible sister, bitch, arrogant, and a bunch of other things. Well, when my mother heard all the screaming from my stepsister and her dad, she came out and asked what happened. I explained what actually happened and what my stepsister had said happened, and told my mom everything. My stepdad called me. My mother kicked him out and told him and his daughter to pack their stuff and leave. After a while of arguing from my mom and stepdad, they eventually left with all of their stuff. I asked my mom what she was gonna do. She said she wasn't sure, but no one was going to disrespect her daughter ever and think they are going to get away with it. All of that was about 5 days ago, and my mom and stepdad have been fighting over the phone at least once a day about the whole thing. I asked her today what was happening, and she said she was divorcing him. I was shocked. I can't believe this all happened because of me. I cold just apologized for something I didn't even do, but it would maybe stopped all of this. So am I the antagonist for causing my mom's and stepdad's divorce over a swimming accident? Now for the top comments. It didn't happen because of you. It's happening because she won't sit back and let him verbally abuse you. There could be hidden factors you're not aware of, and this was a catalyst or final straw. Either way, good for her for making this decision. Nothing is your fault. NTA. Yep. In a world full of parents who step over their children to appease their partners, it's refreshing to see one who prioritizes her children over her spouse. NTA op. And I agree that there were other things going on. This isn't because of you. I think this has been a long time coming, and this was just the trigger event. You must feel terrible, but there's probably things behind the scenes that you don't know. Not the a-hole. NTA. You didn't cause this. Your stepdad refusing to listen to you or treat you fairly did. You said you don't blame him for favoring his BO daughter, but frankly that's heartbreaking. Biology should not mean favoritism in a healthy blended family. I'm glad your mom stands up for you. You deserve it. Plenty of people love their kids equally irrespective of biology, and that's what you and your mom deserve. Am I the antagonist for asking my roommate to change her dog's name? I live with my roommate, Lisa. Lisa lived in Russia for at least the first several years of her life, and she and her parents then immigrated to the United States. Lisa is a great roommate. We've had no issues. She recently wanted to get a dog and asked if I minded if she did. I said no. Several months later she brought home a lab puppy. She's always taken care of him, and he hasn't caused any issues and is really very sweet. My issue is not at all with him. She's had him for a little over 2 weeks. She didn't tell me his name until a few days ago. She said she hadn't decided. When she told me the name I felt uneasy. I don't want to say it, but it's a very stereotypically Russian name, and with recent events I wasn't sure that was a good idea. I told her that, and she brushed it off. Said that she had always wanted a dog when she was growing up, and that she had had this name picked out for years, but wanted to make sure she thought it fit him. I again told her I thought it was a bad idea. With recent events people may get the wrong idea about her or what she supports, and that I would feel uncomfortable calling him that. She didn't listen, so I eventually gave her an ultimatum. I would not live with the dog if that was his name. I don't want to have to explain that to everyone I meet, or for them to immediately assume things about me, especially since he was born after everything happened. She was shocked and got really upset at me, and has been storming around since then and refusing to talk to me, except for when she said she wouldn't be renewing the lease, so I didn't have to worry about living with her or her dog. Some of my friends think I went too far, but many agree with me and say she shouldn't be naming her dog that. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. AITA. This is really dumb. Despite the Ukrainian conflict, just because it's a common Russian name you're automatically pro-Russia? Lol. Notice how Op also didn't say what the name is. You're the a-hole Op. Leads me to suspect it is Vlad. And Op knows it's too common to strike people as properly outrageous. AITA. It's a fucking dog, you walnut. This is the second time today I've seen someone use walnut as an insult on Reddit, and I have to say, I'm all for this trend. Quit Stalin and tell us the name. Seriously, I'm tired of putting up with waiting.